Hey everyone, I'm Tammy Salenberger, the author of The One Inside 30 Days to Your Authentic Self. This podcast is for anyone curious about who they are, the different parts of themselves, and for those who want to connect with their true self. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I am so excited to have back on the podcast Ty Cutner. Now, if you don't know, Ty was on the podcast 2 years ago, like 2.5 years ago, it was 2021. And what is attached to Ty's podcast is an amazing demo that he did with Dick. So the link to that demo is on the podcast notes. And I know the link to that demo is on your website. And so it's a really popular podcast episode. And Ty and I were emailing back and forth, and I was like, gosh, I remember some of it, but I couldn't remember a lot of it. So I re-listened to the first 40 minutes, and I told Ty, I was listening to it, and I was like, this is really good. So if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you listen to it. But why don't we do what we always do and start with telling everybody where you are in the world and what you see if you look out your nearest window.
Right. Now this time I'm gonna actually get up and look out the window. All right. You can still hear me.
I can, yes.
So I'm in New York City, Brooklyn, New York. And when I look out the window, I see the top of trees. It's a nice day out. So blue skies. I see buildings, birds. It's just a nice day out today.
Yeah, it is beautiful here too. It is beautiful. And Ty, when I look behind you, I see the suit. So one of the things that we talk a lot about in the first podcast is the well-dressed man. I called you Dapper, like
Mhm.
Dapper. So what's behind you is this the headless mannequin. So tell me about what's behind you with a suit jacket on.
Yes. So I have this mannequin behind me with a suit jacket because I'm an image coach, right? That was the my first entry into being a coach was helping men with their image. I still do that, right? So anytime I'm doing any videos or Zooms, I like to have that there just for that, just like how it did for you. I wonder what's going on with that suit. Everyone always wants to ask me. So there it is. I'm also an image coach.
Yeah, and that's how you got, and if you people want to listen to the first episode, we talk a lot about that, but that's kind of how you got into this world of coaching, was helping men with their image, because it was one of the ways that really helped men with their confidence and with their self energy qualities, was helping them first, just changing their image, how they dressed and how they held themselves and things like that.
It pulled me out of a low place. Felt like I was struggling in life at one point, over 10 years ago at this point. And me improving myself in that way really got me to being confident, seeing a new path in my life. It allowed me to just do some amazing things. And when I started to help my friends, the amazing things started happening for them too. So I was like, wait a minute, it's not just about clothes. Let me start doing this for other men. And that's when I became the image coach.
Yeah, I love it. And then you from the image coaching, you discovered IFS.
Well, I discovered IFS through my friendship with Duran Young, right? The founder of Black Therapist Rock. She introduced me to the model, had me do the demo with Dick, right? It was like, hey, Ty, would you want to do this demo? They need some diversity. I'm like, whatever, sure, no problem. You're my friend. I'll do whatever you ask. And I went and did the demo. And now that demo is on YouTube, right? It used to be just for the continuity program. Now it's on YouTube. It has about 31,000 views as of now.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, because I think, and I said it on the podcast, that like it was just for the continuity program. And so Dick gave us permission to put it on the podcast because it wasn't out there for the world to see. So we had got
Right.
special permission to put it on as a link on the podcast. So that is so exciting. That's awesome. So tell me what you've done since then, IFS, in the IFS world.
Yes. So right after we recorded that podcast, we was recording it for the Earlham Summit, right?
Yep.
During the summit, I was in the second demo. So during the summit, the big thing was Duran was going to be the therapist and Dick Shorts was going to be the client, right? For Black history, right? All these things. Some things happened in that 3 days where Dick was like, well, you know what? How about we do my demo at the last day and we do the demo with Ty? Because I was scheduled to do a demo as well. And so we focused on that 15-year-old part. during that second demo. And that part was unburdened during that demo. And so I went inside and I found that 15-year-old still in the same apartment I was in when I was 15, trying to figure out how do I exist in the world without my mom, the most important person to me, right? The only person who's seen me, who was my cheerleader. How do I exist? And when I went there, he was looking at me like, "What? This is kind of confusing to have you here and I'm here, right?" It was weird for him. Long story short, I pulled him out of that place. He shared everything he wanted to share. And when I asked him, "Do you want to stay here?" He said, "No." "Where do you want to go?" "I want to go and see how good you are at Street Fighter after all these years," right? So like, all right, cool, let's go. And so we went and we played Street Fighter. And my other partner was like, "Wow, he's back.
Aw.
He's not in that place anymore. He's back." It was like a group hug, you know?
Yeah.
And so since then, I was like, wow, I need to learn this. And so fast forward, I got level one. I was in the BTR training. I got level one trained. Then I was selected to be in the IFS Fellowship, right? So I'm one of the inaugural IFS Fellowship. So then I got level one trained again because they were taking the IFS Institute wanted to bring IFS to places that beyond therapy. So they pick like community leaders, things like that, to teach them the model so they can use it in their space in the world. So I applied, I got selected, and they said you can do level one again, or you can do level two. I said I'm gonna do level one again. I did level one again and level two. So I'm level two trained at this point in IFS.
Yeah. And you just told me, so this, I'm not sure because I'm like 6 episodes behind in publishing these. So I'm not sure when this is going to be out. But you just told me you're also presenting at the conference in a couple of weeks.
Yes, yes. I presented at last year's conference. I was on a panel, right? And me being on that panel, one thing I said on that panel was I was like, is anybody watching old movies and videos of themselves and seeing their parts and parts of their family and see how they came about? And that was like a new thing. And people was like, no, I never did that. It was even trainers. I was in a training, and the trainer was like, I'm gonna take some of what you said and make a PowerPoint based on that, on their family. And I was like, wow. And so I was asked to write a book. I was asked to contribute to a book, an IFS book for people who aren't therapists who use it in the world. And that book comes out at the conference, as well as I'm going to be with Dr. Philip Butler. We're doing something on multiple selves, right? Your personal physics in multiple selves. The idea that there's more than one self, because there's some self in every part. So if that's the case, then there's multiple selves, and we're going to kind of play around with that during our workshop.
Okay, so back up and tell me about, so here I have all kinds of, so I want to talk about the 15-year-old and what's happening with your mom, or sort of what's the amazing thing that happened to you around your mom. And we can talk about the mothering parts of me that came up because you asked me about that. And then I want to talk about this new book that's coming out and it's going to come out at the conference. That's IFS for non-therapists. I absolutely love that because I think and listeners know that my heart really is to get IFS just make it accessible to everyone, take it out of the therapy room, like make it accessible to everyone. And then I definitely need to hear about these multiple selves. And I think that, I do a lot of intro to IFS workshops because that's something that I just feel, a lot of passion for. And I feel like there's all kinds of things that we don't include in intro to IFS because it's like, it's not that it's confusing, right? It's simple but complex, but it's like, that's one thing that we're not including in intro to IFS. The idea of that parts have self energy too, and there's multiple selves. So where do you want to start? And I know there's other things we have to talk about. So where do you want to start with just sort of what I kind of laid out there?
We could talk about that 15-year-old, like
Okay.
what happened afterwards,
Okay.
So once I pulled him out, he was out of that place. Then I started to introduce him to my world. Like he didn't know I had a son. He didn't know like what year it was. Like he didn't realize all these things that happened and what I was doing in the world. And so I started to bring him in, and it was so like rewarding to just show him around. Like, hey, hang out. You're hanging out with us now. You're hanging out with me. And so he started to look at the world and was just amazed by all the things that I've done. And since then, I've much more parts work, much more. I have my IFS therapist every week. And so I've been able to update other parts, those younger parts, like in that first demo, the lazy parts. I have a bunch of kids that are around and they're being pushed around by these teenager parts who are the working, want to get the job done. And I had to introduce everybody to who I am now today, and then incorporate them in what I'm doing. So the projects that I have, everybody's involved, not just the part of me that wants to succeed, not just the part of me that wants to strive, but my young parts, they start adding creativity and things to my projects, as well as that 15-year-old. So now I have a project where I'm going into the schools. So I took my image coaching program and I turned it as a Well-Dressed Academy. And I basically take what my mom did. My mom encouraged me when I was a kid. She made me believe I was special and important and valuable. So when she passed, I couldn't be a knucklehead because I knew I was destined for greatness. I couldn't be around knuckleheads. I couldn't do negative things. You didn't have to parent me. I was going to keep myself online because I had this belief. And so that training is going in and then helping kids identify what their gift is and then use that and then go towards themselves the same way my mom taught me. And my 15-year-old part is looking at kids now like, wait a minute, if we was in school, we would be doing different things. They don't have the things that we had. How about we bring it to them? Perfect. So he helped me build these trainings now. And so that's what's been happening with him.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How is he doing living life without mom?
So here's where the amazing thing happened, right? I was in the training. We was in between the second module and the third module, right? And Tamala Floyd is very big on the uh, legacy gifts, legacy burdens, right? She has this great meditation where we should send you through a forest and you go to a cabin and you see an ancestor inside this cabin and they give you a box. I did the meditation one several times, but this time, right after that, maybe a couple days after that, I actually had a plant-based medicine journey back in March, and it kind of opened me up to all these other things. And it was all about family during that journey. Like it was amazing. And then one day we have an eye mask during that session. I had an eye mask, and I have the eye mask still. And sometimes I'll go inside, a certain playlist I'll play. And I did that one day, and I was just breathing because I was feeling so relaxed. And I started to hear a conversation happening. Right? It wasn't a conversation I was directing. It was a conversation that sounded like my mom was talking. And as my mom was talking about me to my father, who I never met. He was killed before I was born. I'm hearing this conversation. They're talking about like current times. And I'm just listening. And while I'm listening to this, it's like this strong emotion. And I start crying, like strong cry. But then I start laughing because I'm crying. I'm like, whatever is happening is so amazing. It's touching me this way. It's amazing. I'm laughing at that. And that happened 3 or 4 times in the span of 15 minutes. I'm just listening to this conversation. And then I came out and then I was like, I got to journal about this. And I'm still hearing it and I'm journaling. I'm still crying. I'm still laughing and journaling. And then I had this, like, as I'm running out, I did something like this. I looked up. It's like epiphany that there's a part of me that is my mom.
Wow.
There's a part of me that is my mom. Just like there's a part of my nose that's look like my mom, a part of my body is a part of me that's my mom. And she's like, now you can finally hear me. I've been trying to get to you all this time. And when you said the mother of parts, I'm thinking that her mothering energy, you're not the only one who felt like that around me. All the women who are, I was always, because I have this like youthful look, I look pretty young and I act young, most of the time. Any woman who's slightly older has this mothering energy towards me. She's like, that's me trying to get in touch with you. And I was like, wow, I have a part of me that's my mom. And so she communicates to me in this way, like she says, Tyron, Tyron. That's how she say my name. That part says that my name in that way. And she very encouraging. I love what you're doing with your life. Look at you. I knew you were special. I'm not surprised at these things. And when she talks to me, all my parts hear it. And they're all encouraged by her. Because my younger parts like, where's mommy? Where is she? Where is she? But now they can hear her. They can feel her. So it's been amazing.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, what's coming up for me is that just that really interesting idea that, we talk about parts beget parts and self begets self. Doesn't that make a lot of sense that your mom energy in you would tap a part of me that wants to nurture and love in this mom way that your mom energy tapped into that for me. And that's what was happening.
Right. Right. It's like self, like we all know self. We can recognize self. We can see self. I know when a person is self-led. You know when a person's in pain, you're gonna have a part that knows and can see that. That's what everyone was seeing. They were seeing that those younger parts of me kind of sad, like, where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Oh, here's a mommy. Here's a mother. Here's some mother energy, right? And it just get pulled out of you. You're like, I don't know where it's coming from. You didn't. You was like, why am I like this with him? Like you was confused by it, but that's what I think it was. And once that part of me that wasn't afraid to go there, wasn't afraid to go, because that I could not go to that 15-year-old. It was too sad. So I wouldn't even want to hear anything, wouldn't go there. Now I watch videos of my mom. I can look at her parts. I can, like, I don't know if you watched the video I gave you, the Well Just Academy video, but she's in that video, where I have her in there and I talk about her. And there's a young part. You got to watch that video because it's me
What
at like
video? I don't think
10.
I don't think I saw a video. I mean, I don't think I saw that you sent me a video. Okay.
Yes,
Sorry, I
it's a
missed
video.
that.
You will see me at 10. You'll see me at
Oh
10
my
being
gosh.
clowning around. And
Ah, okay. Can other people see this video?
yes, but
Where
you
do
just
they
go to
see?
Well Just Academy, welljustacademy.com. It's the
Okay.
video right away on the page.
That's amazing, amazing. And yeah, what's coming up for me about that is that right, the parts that didn't want to even get near that 15-year-old, right? The parts that are like, nope, we don't talk
Right,
about him, we don't talk about him, we don't go there because it's so painful. But
right.
now that he's been unburdened and there's all this stuff that's come up since that, like, well, it's worth going there. It's worth going to those sore, painful, traumatic places.
It's easy to go there. Like I want to go there. Like I'm excited when I get activated about a situation because now my parts can be involved in the conversation. Like we're all together as a team.
Mm.
It's like I have a part of me that used to be a worrisome part. Like you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess. Once I got him unburdened, updated him, now he's my advisor. Right. All right. Here's a list of things we need to work on. I have parts that they come on like it's like a headquarters inside here. And so it's exciting for us to just be open. And I wasn't listening, I wasn't asking for these things to happen. But when I'm open, what comes in, and that's what came in.
Beautiful. And then from there, it doesn't surprise me at all that there would be all this creative energy. So the Well Dressed Academy, and then this new IFS book. So is the book called Freeing Self, or is that your chapter?
That's the book. It's Free and Self Beyond IFS Beyond Therapy. When I wrote the book, I knew um that I had, in order for me to tell my story properly, I have to really go deep into my family. How did my family came about? Where did this pain come from? And I started off with that the same way, the unburdening, how I got introduced to IFS and what happened now. And I told the story about my mom and what happened with her. Her mom passed away when she was 7. And she's the in the house, right? Is a pretty traumatic story. And she was the oldest of 3 kids. My grandfather, her father, took care of her and the kids, and he was working hard, and then she didn't have the tools to kind of get past that pain. And she looked just like her mom. I looked at a photo. My grandfather gave me this photo, looking through some. Oh, there's my mom. Like, that ain't your mom. That picture was taken in 1963. Your mom is only 2 years old during that. That's your grandmother. I was like, what? I didn't. It looked exactly like my mom. So imagine the pain of my grandfather seeing his daughter who looks just like his wife. You know what I mean? So my mom had her issues and her pains, and she didn't have the tools to get past that. And so I go into those stories. I go into what came about and what I'm doing now and why I'm doing it. The unburdening and what I'm doing for men. I'm coach men in their relationships, and I've added IFS to that community, right? People who these guys stay away from therapy. I don't like therapy. Couples counseling. We got veterans who say the veteran therapy sucks. I brought them into IFS and transformed these men. I have guys who on my call, just last night I had a call. Guys are speaking like if they went through the training. They're
Amazing.
helping other guys as if they went through the training. I'm like, wow, amazing.
Great. I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Tell me about the IFS Children's Book.
Uh, so yes, so my parts, right? When we were building these things, I was, I always ask my parts. I do a check-in. Who's all in here? Who wants to be a part of this? What can we do? And the younger parts, they have their own little section, right? And they like to come together and huddle up together. And so when I was building things, Well Just Academy, I was like, oh, we can have comic books and we can have the comic book was going to be based on a student goes through my training and then their adventure starts. With the knowledge I gave them, their adventure starts and how would they do in the real world? And I wanted to give it to the kids and the young men to show them how it would really look in your real world experiences. I was at a meeting, a fair actually, where I was presenting the Well Just Academy, and one of the people at the fair, she does like children's books. And so I told her about my comic book idea. She's like, "Oh, I would love that. I want to do a series of books." So we had a meeting, and I told her my ideas, and she said, "You know what? Maybe we should start with just a children's book." I was like, "Okay, that sounds good. How about we do a children's book based on some of my childhood adventures? But here's the twist. We'll tell a story about my childhood, and these are my young parts. Yeah, this is gonna be great. We tell a story about my childhood, and then we do the story over, but this time it's a choose your adventure using IFS, right? So we tell a story, and then we'll
Wow.
say, now we tell a story over. Now the reader gets to pick which part do they want to go down the story, and that would change the ending of the story.
And Ty sits back. He's like, sits back, like mic drop. That's amazing. We love choose your own adventures. We love those. We love reading those books, and now you can watch shows where you choose your own adventure. That's amazing.
Right? Because we grew up on that.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
parts, we grew up on choose your adventure books, and it's like, well,
yeah.
my son never read a choose your adventure book. I don't see anybody reading any choose your adventure books. How about we bring that back? But now we put it with an IFS twist.
Love
And
it.
once I did that, I have like at least 2 dozen stories right off the cuff, just funny, hilarious stories, different characters. It's amazing, and it goes into those earlier years of me going through my mom and my grandfather, the custody battle. So it's going to be funny, but it's also going to have that, like, where did those pains, where did those parts get burdened at? Where did that happen? What situations? So that the readers could read it and say, wow, maybe my child is going through something like that. Let me ask them in a part perspective. Maybe find out what's going on from that. Why are they depressed? Why are they down? Why are they sad? Why are they not laughing? Because the environment they're in is making certain parts come out or certain parts be exiled.
Mm,
And so that was the idea for the children's book.
that's
And
great.
eventually a cartoon. That was the idea. Like, right, we're going to start with a children's book and then we're going to come up with a cartoon.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I love it. I love it. So, and I love that too, because you're like, we're going to talk about the hard stuff, like just like you said in your chapter, right? Like, it's not just now I had this great relationship with my mom inside, and like, no, like I had to go through my little boy parts had to go through some horrible, traumatic grief and loss. And there's a lot that they had to go through to get to the point where you are right now.
Right,
And
right.
I'm going to go back to it might not be hard now, but a certain point in your life, my guess is you were a lot like the men that you coached. I'm not doing therapy. I'm not talking about the hard stuff. Like, I got to keep it all buttoned up. I got to keep it cool. Or we talked about last time, like the parts of you that are funny. Right? I'm just going to be the
Mm-hmm.
funny guy.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. That's happened to a lot of men, right? Because they have, especially the guys that I'm coaching, right? They're successful men, taking care of their family, taking care of businesses, running businesses and things like that. And it's like, I gotta keep going, keep forging ahead, keep forging ahead. Then you get smacked with all these emotions from a divorce or a separation or infidelity. You're smacked with all these heavy emotions, and you can't forge past that. For some reason, you just can't get past it. These younger parts that are sad by that, and I realized these parts have abandonment. That's what happened to that 15-year-old. My younger parts, they felt abandoned, right? There's no one that very important person to us that kind of reflect who we are back to ourselves. That's not there anymore. So now who are we? What do we do? And so now having guys understand that they have parts, that was the first step. When I went into the training, I was like, all right. When I first got trained, I wasn't really confident in my skills to be doing a whole IFS session, right? So I was like, okay, how can I add this to the community because they can use it? So I started by telling them, all right, instead of you saying that you're sad or you're angry, how about you say a part of me is sad or a part of me is angry? This way, You could not be blended or be angry and do what an angry person does, think like an angry person does, see the world like an angry person would. But you can look at the part that's angry and then look at why is that part angry? This is going to put you in self, right? And now you can interact with that part. And I was like, and that was the only instruction I gave them. Like, and then go back and then come back in a week and tell me how that went. And they came back, Ty, that was great. I didn't stay stuck in the emotion when I did that. I was like, oh, perfect. And then fast forward to today, like I said, we have guys on my call who sound like they were trained in the model.
That's awesome. I love it. I love how you are impacting. Like it's so cool. Like you've gone on this amazing journey that was like clearly you have like the image stuff started first and then people were just drawn to you because of that. And then look at where that's taken you.
Right. I had to, my whole coaching practice started because I was able to do something for myself. I improved my image, not only just my image, but my life with it. And so I was like, well, this is a secret because if everyone knew this, they would dress well like I do. Right. And so that's why I started the coach guys. When I realized that I can take like one session is all it took for that 15-year-old to come out. I thought it was gonna be therapy for years. That's what I don't got time for that. I'm just talking about it like therapy. That's how therapy was before. But IFS is very different. I don't really like calling it therapy. I like specifically say IFS because it's very different. In one session, I could pull that part out of that place. He was stuck in that place for over 20 years. So when I started to do sessions with guys, now I'm doing one-on-one sessions with guys now. I had a guy just a couple of weeks ago. Matter of fact, no, a couple of days ago, he was doing IFS therapy for over a year and a half. And he had this part that he just couldn't get past. It was a part that reminded him anytime someone reminds him of his mom, who's very controlling and tell him what to do, he has a part that stops at protect her. Nope, no, nope, stop. And his wife reminds him of his mom. And so he came on a call. He's like, he's working on that part for a few years. And I said, and you still have a problem with that part? The part still doesn't trust you? You sure you're doing IFS? And so he reached out to me. He's like, can we do a session on that part? It was the fastest session I ever had. In like 34 minutes. It was usually it's 45 minutes. 34 minutes. He was able to really update that part of who he is today and bring that part out of where he was. And he was like, wow, I feel so much lighter now. That's what it is.
It really is amazing, isn't it? Like the different lives we can lead when we have connected with these hurt parts that have just been exiled because they're so hurt. And when we go to them, we really can lead different lives. And then we can help other people lead different lives that they want to lead.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things that I try to teach my guys, I give them little guys, they want solutions, right? They want to have little, what's the tool I can use? So I teach them like little nuggets. So I'll teach them how to unblend, right? I'll teach them how to purposely blend and then how to unblend. And I'm like, that right there is a big release when you realize that when you feel these heavy emotions, you can soften them, you can unblend from them, right? You cannot be stuck in them. And that tool alone has stopped a lot of guys from feeling. I had one gentleman, he was like, Ty, I went to my counselor. She said I need to take some meds. What do you think? We have a session going, tomorrow. Should I speak to you first or should I take the meds? I'm like, no, speak to me first and we'll go from there and see how it goes. After that call, he was like, I don't need meds. I could see another way out of this. And now he's like the happiest person. Like I was just on the call with him yesterday. He's like brought back to life. He's like, this IFS thing was the best thing that have ever happened in my life. And he's a musician. And he's like, I want to now make music that speaks about healing. Right. So I'm like, exactly. That's what we want.
Amazing. Do you find that that's something with men that has worked well is to have them purposely blend so that they can unblend? Like, is that something with the men that you've worked with that is a good way to help them unblend?
Yes, because usually they are blended the reason why they even come to us is because they can't unblend, right? They don't know what blending is. They don't realize they have parts. They just know that they have these strong emotions and they can't get past it. They can't focus at work, can't focus with their kids, they can't focus on anything else. They can't sleep. They're drinking more. They're just doing all these, they're firefighting basically. And so I teach them how to unblend, right? I ask them which part is feeling that. Take a little inventory, which part is feeling that. And there's multiple parts that's going through that, right? It's a part that's like, we had this great life together that we were supposed to have. A part that's like, I tried my best. I gave it my all. I was working for the family. Like, what am I without her? And, how is things going to turn out without the kids and, separate homes and the money aspect, all these parts surrounding it. So we do a little part mapping, right? Simply doing a part mapping exercise allows them to unblend, right? Which part? When you have to identify which part, you now unblend from the part. So I simply just teach them those little tools, and I have, okay, now go out there and tell me how it went. And they come back and they're like, wow, yeah, I was able to move away from that feeling, and I was able to identify what the fear of that part was. Perfect. Now we getting somewhere.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tell me about the workshop that you're doing and the idea that that parts have self energy and that we have multiple selves.
Yes. So there was when I leading up to the conference, right? IFS Institute asked for people to present if they wanted to do a workshop. And there was parts of me like, yeah, we want to be out there, my young parts. They like, I have parts of me, you'll see when you watch that video. I have parts of me that just love to entertain, dance, all that. And so they wanted to be on stage. And I was like, wait a minute now. We got a book coming out. So we probably gonna be on a panel for that book. We may be on a panel like we were last year. We are a fellow, so we may be on a panel for that. Let's not go too crazy. You know what I mean? We want to enjoy the conference as well. But then leading up to the conference, those panels I didn't see myself on any of these panels. They weren't coming to fruition. So I had to make a phone call, and I called my good friend, Dr. Philip Butler. Now, Dr. Philip Butler is brilliant, right? He's the Seeker Project. So he has the AI, IFS informed Black AI, right? And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, listen, I want to speak at the conference. Here's what I'm working on, right? And what I was working on is I'm creating a IFS training myself, right? And so the guys who I do the therapy with, right? I'm being pulled away. There's a lot of them. I don't want to be doing one-on-one sessions forever. That's not my thing, And so I said, I'm going to be pulling away, but I'm not going to leave y'all with nothing. I'm going to create something for you all. So the friend who helped me with the Well Dress Academy, he won an Emmy. That friend is an Emmy Award winning content creator, Thomas Knox, right? And he won an Emmy for some of the projects he did before he won an Emmy. We were friends before that. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, listen, I want this project. He helped me with the Well Dress Academy videos. So then I was asking my lady, I was like, you know what? There's two options I could do. I can do this new and improved image coaching training, right? Or I can do an IFS training. Like, how do I live self-led? Because people look at me, Ty, you're so calm, you're so relaxed. How do you do it? What's going on? So I want to teach people what's really going on inside of my mind. How do I see my parts? How do I come up with these agreements with them? How do I do these? How do I purposely blend with a part? And that's when we get into that multiple selves, right? So I'm blending IFS with behavioral assessments. I have this behavioral assessment that I like crammed to get this training. I had to pay and get into this training in order for me to identify and be a coach. And basically, there are talents that we all have, right? You may have a part of you that is skillful at negotiating, or part of you that is very social. You can blend with those parts and just have the power from a self-led place, not a fearful place. Just like how you can blend when you're afraid, you can blend with a protector. You can purposely blend with a part that is just great at that activity. And before I do that, what I'll do is I'll check in with all my other parts. Is everybody okay with him blending right now? Yeah, let him do his thing. That's what my parts are. Let him do his thing. We like when he does his thing. So all right, we're gonna purposely blend with him. What do you need when you're blended? Certain music, certain smells, certain environment. And then I'll blend with that part and then I'll do the activity to the max. Like, it's so easy to be productive because I'm purposely blending with the part. So I wanted to create something that gives the visual and understanding and heartfelt of a masterclass or a movie or a like really cinematic and music and really touching, and then make IFS that accessible for my guys and then for everyone else in the world. So that's the training I'm coming up with. That's what some of the stuff we're gonna be discussing in that workshop.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. When it makes so much sense. And when we talk about our protectors, we often say, like, I don't want you to go away, right? Like, I just want you to sort of, we want to go to what you've been protecting. I want to go to the exile that you're protecting. And that, like, we can sometimes remind them, like, I still need you to do your job, right? I still need this part of me to be really organized, or I need this part of me to be, sort of hustle, right? You clearly have parts that love the hustle.
Right.
And so, right, I still want to do that. But if it's not driven by the fear of the exile, that's going to feel a lot different. So then I still hustle, but I can blend with that protector part. And then it's going to feel like lots of focus and lots of like getting stuff done. And it's not going to have that like, that burden of the exile pushing it.
Right. It's so the part is no longer really a protector. It's like a former protector. It has experience at being a protector, right? It's almost like if you have like the Rock, like the Rock was a former wrestler, but now he's a movie star, right? So that's how my part. So it's like formerly we were protectors. Formerly we had to worry about these young ones, but now we realize it's a self. So we still have the skills of doing these great jobs. How can we now do it with the support of all of our parts in self?
So good. So good. And now all your parts are like the Rock. So that works out well. You do children's movies now.
Right, right, exactly.
Oh, beautiful. Ty, what else? Because I know we're running out of time. What else do you feel like you want to share that you haven't shared already?
Yes. So one of the amazing things about IFS is me helping people understand that we have parts, right? And when I wrote the book with a ton of trailheads because I only got one chapter, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna write it purposely with trailheads in there. And the reason why I wrote it with trailheads is because I want to eventually write a book with my about my whole family, right? How they all who represents all my parts, and then my family's parts. But in order for them to tell a story, they have to realize they have parts. They're going to need to get some therapy themselves, so that when they tell a story, they can tell it from a parts perspective. So that when they share their burdens and when they share their pains and traumas, there's no victims and there's no enemies. Every person in the story is redeemed because every bad thing that happened, right? There's no bad parts, right? So if we tell a story about something that it would normally be a bad person in this story, but now we realize there's no bad parts. So what made that person do that? Which parts of them made them do these things? I want to tell a whole story about how my family came about, and then get them involved, because my whole thing is I want to heal my family, you know. And so my younger parts, they came in as they're looking at the world. And for those who know, I like playing video games. As you can see, that's one thread throughout my whole life. All my parts all play video games. And my mom, she encouraged me, and she said, Tyron, you were good at these games. You were very good at the games. You play these complex strategy games. What if you made the world look like a game to you? Now all your parts are involved in helping you with this. So my mission, like, I'm living my destiny now. My destiny is to heal the world. And I'm looking at it like a real-time strategy game. There's a lot of hurt in the world. So how am I going to heal the world? I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to add things that heals. So my Well Just Academy, it heals young people, right? It also connects to the parents. So it's a program that's both for the young men in the school, but I have those videos are for the parents at home, so that the parents could speak to their kid and encourage them the way my mom encouraged me, right? So let that percolate. Then we have the book, right? The book, people start reading the book. Oh, that's how your parts are. Let that percolate. We have the children's book coming out. We're going to let that percolate. And then I'm actually going to create a game. Like, I actually have an idea for a game, and the game is basically gives us a scenario of the problems that we have in our world. A lot of our kids now are playing games that destroy. First person shooter is the most sold game genre for the past 10, 15 years. And then we have all these shootings in our country. We have to wonder why. We have games that simulate death and destruction. Whereas when I was 15, I had games that simulate creating. I played SimCity, Rise of Nation. I'm like, we need to create games that have our young people's minds thinking about fixing and building and prospering and abundance. And how about we create a game that shows all the problems that we have in this world, and then possible solutions, and have the kids play with it, break it, mess with it, so that they can start to think of how they're going to solve the problems of the world as they start to inherit the world. So that's going to be part 3 for our next
I love it. I love it. So I will look forward to part 3. And yeah, we need to meet again in 6 months when you're like, okay, here's the what else you're pouring out into the world is out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I love it, Ty. If you weren't, let's do the last question. If you weren't doing all you were doing and you had to do something different than everything you just said, what would you do
You got to see,
different?
audience, you got to see Tammy is pointing at me.
I
You got to do
did.
something different.
I did. I pointed.
So I thought about this question, and I think that if I had a realization of my parts, I would consult with them first and identify what would we want to happen. Just like an IFS question, like what would you want to happen? What how would you want things to have been different based on what we went through? And that's what we would be doing, right? So whether I'll be creating some beautiful music to heal, whether I will be creating some, other people, whether something along those lines of helping people, because I'm a very social person and I see people, I study people, and I study the happiness in folks, right? I see what make them happy, and that's what I want to bring in the world. So whatever will bring people happiness and joy is something I think that I will be doing and involved in.
I love it. Well, you are already doing that in so many ways, and I'm so glad that we got to do this again. And I'm just excited to see what happens next.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you like this episode, please subscribe, rate, like, all the things. My book is available at your favorite independent bookstore or all the places books are available. You can also visit my website, tammysallenberger.com, where you can download a free meditation on getting to know your should parts. You know, there's parts of you who remind you of what you should be doing. They sound a bit critical at times. Yes, we all have them. You can follow me at IFS Tammy on Instagram and Twitter and the One Inside Facebook page. I'm so grateful for Jack Reardon, who created the new music. Jack is a graduate of Derek Scott's IFS Stepping Stone program. Thanks, Jack, for getting me. And to you, thanks for listening.